Victor Kgomoeswana, author of Africa is Open for Business and Africa Bounces Back. How are the G20 excitement levels for you?
Social network of the nations of the world that are trying to create a new world order. Good afternoon, Tammy, by the way. It's good to talk to you again. I think, I'm just fascinated that Donald Trump thought he could stop the party because he's the owner of the ball. He's the rich kid. He owns the ball. He's not being put on the team, and he's going to take the ball and go home. And the party is just going on without him. But yeah, I think it's the way the world is going to work. Multilateralism is the way to go. And these are nations that are trying to agree, find a consensus on how we should conduct the affairs of the world. And yeah, we have to be excited about it, especially as a South African, because that kind of tourism is excellent for the economy.
It certainly is. It certainly is. Not very excellent news, it looks like, for Visit Rwanda and their sponsorship deal that they've had with Arsenal. So give us a bit more details with that. Who decided to end this partnership? Is it Arsenal that's decided to end it, or is it Visit Rwanda who says that they're done?
It's Arsenal, definitely Arsenal. Arsenal is the 4 teams that had the Visit Rwanda on their sleeve as a sponsor. They pay, I think, the word that's been bandied about that about £10 million. But yeah, that is a £10 million. It's been going on for nearly 10 years. And Bayern Munich was also one country. One team in the Bundesliga, and then you have now. I think the 2 active teams will be Atletico Madrid in La Liga. They're still on, and PSG in France. So 4 of the major leagues had an Arsenal sponsorship deal. But the pressure, the allegations of human rights abuse against Rwanda made Bayern Munich to stop the jersey sponsorship deal, but they're still involved in Rwanda in some development, soccer development. Then Arsenal is also having to pull out because it looks like they surveyed some of the fans and 90% of the people were against the deal because of the allegations. But here's an interesting twist and why I brought it onto the story. Arsenal is owned by an American real estate billionaire called Stan Kroenke. And when they cancel the deal now, there are 2 teams in the U.S., one in the NBA, that's the LA Clippers, and the other one is Los Angeles Rams. It's a National Football League team. These teams in September announced a jersey sponsorship deal. And both of them are owned by, among other people, surprise, surprise, Stan Kroenke. So he's sort of just moved the sponsorship money from one team that he owns in the UK, which is Arsenal, to the US, where he has now got LA Clippers, which is in the NBA, and LA Rams. LA Rams is in the NFL. Now, NFL can draw crowds of 120 million when we're talking Super Bowl. That's the final championship game. So I don't know. I don't think Rwanda is not really losing because it is looking to attract high-end tourists. And if you're going to be advertising in the NBA and the NFL while you are still advertising in La Liga and in Liga in France, you are still just going to even, but it's going to have to address the allegations sooner or later because it can't keep being seen as a controversial client like that.
But also, as you say, after a 10-year relationship, it is perhaps worth Visit Rwanda's time and effort to now look at new territories that they can now continue promoting in. But let's move to Morocco now. And one of the major construction and infrastructure companies in Morocco, Société Générale des Travaux du Maroc, which is SGTM.
Wow, okay, tell me, okay, oui. Now that's good. Yeah, Capital Markets Authority, that is what the regulatory authority of the listings. This is a $540 million IPO, the public offering. That is why if they sell all the 12 million shares that are going to be part of this. And it's only 20% of this company. So they are not selling They are not opening everything to the public, but from December 1st to December 8th, they'll be open. They are hoping to get that kind of, they say they're trying to firm up their structure, their financial structure, and broaden their shareholder base and promote transparency. When you start listing, you're going to have to answer to the public effectively because everybody's watching you, and your appointments have to be a lot more transparent. So it's good for the company that once you've made your money, but to be able to raise $540 million in one IPO, and yet you are giving up only 20%, that's good business for the Casablanca Stock Exchange. And it's just one of those stock markets, Tami, that are connecting and are able to benefit from Europe and Africa at the same time.
And looking at Ghana, their economy grew by 5.1% in August of 2025. What can that be attributed to?
This is amazing. 9.6% growth in services, and that is 4.80 percentage points. So of the 5.1%, 4.08 from one sector, services. And then the other one is from, I think, now it's agriculture. I think it's agriculture, which grew by about 7.4%. And I mean, Ghana is highly indebted. So when you get a 5% percentage growth of the economy, it's good because eventually it will generate enough value and at least be able to pay off some of the debt. It has been going to the markets to raise money to pay off debt. So it's not a good picture. But the industrial sector is shrinking by about 1.08%, which is worrying because manufacturing industrial sector will be where you get the industrialization going. At least if the economy is growing, 1 year it will be another sector and the other one. But I'm just glad that Ghana is registering growth because it really needs that kind of growth for this moment where it is, considering how indebted it has been over the past 10 years.
And let's wrap up with Zimbabwe. The debt management still is a huge concern for the country, despite the fact that inflation has dropped.
You know what? This is a good news story for Zimbabwe. And this is the report by the Confederation of Zimbabwean Industries. So it's not the government reporting this. It's a private sector saying 82.7%. This is now the way inflation was in September. It has dropped to 32.7. And you know, when inflation drops that phenomenally, it tells you that the buying power of the currency is recovering. And what makes the currency to have buying power or to preserve its buying power or grow it? It's when people have confidence. Why would they have confidence? To summarize, the ZiG is backed by the gold that Zimbabwe has. And that's why I'm a fan of the ZiG, because it's not just subjecting the markets to the fiat or the vagaries of the fiat currency. It's saying Zimbabwe has a lot of gold. Let's use it to back our currency. That way people are more relaxed because they know that Zimbabwe has gold, both in the vaults and underground. So when you pay or you use the Zimbabwean dollar, you are likely to be having that guarantee. The gold standard used to be the way we did business in Africa before America interfered and made us to rely on the dollar. So this is excellent. The GDP, according to the IMF, is over $50 billion. It was about $13 billion in 2020. That's a massive growth, both on the GDP side, but also inflation coming down. It's expected to be between 15 and 20% by the end of this year.
Oh, good news stories, definitely for Zimbabwe. I mean, they're really having an influx of positivity. We've been talking about Aliko Dangote and his investment in the country. We've been talking about the increase as far as the value of the ZiG is concerned and the stability therein. So really looking like Zimbabwe is on the up and up. Victor Kgomoeswana, always a pleasure.
Been talking to you. Let's talk after the G20 time. Have a good weekend. Bye.
Certainly. Thank you so much. Victor Kgomoeswana, author of Africa is Open for Business and Africa Bounces Back. He's also the Executive Director for Marketing and Communication at the University of Limpopo. And as you heard at the tail end of that, when we next speak to Victor, we'll round up some of the key outcomes that came out of the G20 Leaders Summit, which begins tomorrow in Johannesburg, South Africa. It's exactly 23 minutes after 4 p.m.